Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in the next couple of minutes. We're just waiting for everyone to join. All right, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for part 3 of our pest education seminar on urban rodent control. Before we get started, let's go over a few rules. Please, everyone, mute your line. You can use the chat box to ask any questions, and for any additional questions not answered during the webinar, you can email them to us at education@nola.gov. We will be posting this webinar on our YouTube channel. Pictures of trap stations and rodenticides are for educational purposes only and do not represent an endorsement by New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board. Today's topic is rodent proofing and home inspections, a comprehensive look at the strategies for building rodents out of your residence. Today we have two speakers, Tommy Madeir and Dr. Claudia Rigo. Timmy has been working in the field of urban rodent control for 20 plus years. In college, he drove fog trucks at night in his hometown of LaPlace, Louisiana. In 2008, he began working at the City of New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board as a general pest control specialist and is working now as a special projects coordinator. His primary focus is on commensal rodents and urban rodent control. Dr. Claudia Rigo earned her degrees from Purdue University, the University of Georgia, and obtained a PhD from the University of Florida. In 2004, she became principal research entomologist for the City of New Orleans Mosquito and Termite Board. In 2006, she became assistant director, and in 2010, she was promoted to the director of the department. And now, Timmy and Claudia.
Thank you, Astacia. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So just a little bit of background for those that are new to our webinar series. We are the City of New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board. So we do lots of different things. We're a vector control and pest management organization. We're a department of the City of New Orleans. And so we do rodent abatement for all of Orleans Parish, which is the City of New Orleans. Mosquito control has a long history here as well, dating back into the 60s. And we also do a lot of work with urban pests. And so right now, as many of you know that are in our region, it is termite season. Specifically for most and subterranean termites. So just to give you a little bit of perspective on what we do. So this is a very exciting topic. And, we thought an hour, a little over an hour should be dedicated to rodent pest proofing and inspecting your property. So as you all well know, every single property is very different. And you really need to conduct a good, thorough inspection in order to really understand what is going on. I mean, if you are new to our series, you can go to our YouTube channel, and we've got a presentation that covers just biology. So it's just really understanding the biology of these animals and then do the pest proofing and those inspections as well. Now, I think many of us are online, you go on YouTube, but we found this really amazing video. And there you can see, actually, there's a roof rat up in the property, but look at that. It is climbing right up a stucco property going in. You can see those rub marks. There must be a nest that's up into that building. And so truly amazing, right? So it's just using that biology, using those little claws that it has, climbing right on up. So it is not a big deal for these animals to do this kind of stunt work, honestly. And we'll go to the next one. And so that was a roof rat. And, we get the question all the time, can a house mouse, can a mouse climb up a wall? And I'm going to show you another video. And the answer is absolutely. So this is Brick, and these animals really can grab on with their nails and just climb straight up into that opening that perhaps somebody left. Now, this is truly amazing. This animal is looking down, just clinging on to that brick. using that gap in between where the mortar is to help it, to really just get a good grip. So, and also if you look at that pipe that's coming out of the building, there's no close, it's not closed, right? It is wide open. And who knows what that is going into? Is it an exhaust, pipe? And if it is, that animal potentially is right into that building. Not only that, if you leave your window open, it'll chew through a screen with no problem, and it's in your building. So quite spectacular. So the goal here, honestly, is, this presentation is to provide some practical approaches for inspections and doing some repairs and really doing some basic preventative measures as it all relates to rodents. And so, we're dealing here with pest proofing. We do a lot of pest proofing with insects as well, but we're not going to cover everything for insects and rodents. But we're going to really focus in on that rodents. But many of the things that we're doing is going to obviously help you with the insect component of it. And so again, here real quick, we're providing those areas in the structure. We're going to highlight these where we think are those vulnerable areas, things that you should be looking at straight away, where they can gain entry into that structure. Now, here at the City of New Orleans, we really believe that if homeowners and even the industry, commercial properties, if they would spend a little bit more time on pest proofing their buildings, a lot of these problems that they may have would essentially be eliminated, right? So is closing the envelope of the building. Sometimes it's as easy as closing the door in the back of the building or leaving a door open, for example. Those things all need to be closed. And what happens is a lot of times, because it seems often daunting to do all this pest proofing, homeowners and even our pest management industry, they're going to bypass part of that and they're going to go right to trapping or baiting as their primary choice. So we just finished actually a rodent IPM webinar as well. And, really for that long-term success, we need everyone to follow an IPM program, which typically is using more than one method for control, and pest proofing is a good one. So we've done a lot of work here, not only in city buildings, but working in schools and other facilities. It is often very much perceived that rodent proofing, pest proofing in general, takes a lot of time. It's very expensive. You need a lot of specialized, expertise and equipment. And we've done work here where everything was off the shelf, for example, and it didn't cost that much money. So today what we're going to do is, yes, we're going to show you the good, expensive, fancy stuff, but also some of the materials that you can use and do it yourself. And I also want everybody to think about, when you're pest proofing, where the stuff is coming into your building. And so mice and rats, but usually mice, they can be delivered into a home or into a commercial facility through boxes. They can be shipped around, it can be in a box, and next thing you know, you're opening it up and bow, and there it is. And so we also have seen this with other pests, especially German cockroaches would be a good example. So very important if you have a commercial facility, that you are looking at that intake, right, of how things are done. Another great example here is if you're traveling and you have suitcases and you're concerned about bed bugs. The thing that you're not going to do, or at least should not do, is take that suitcase, throw it on your bed when you get home. At least for me, I travel, I unload everything outside, I inspect my suitcase, I want to make sure that no bed bugs are brought in, and my clothes goes directly to the wash, and then the hot cycle in the dryer. So it's really sort of that prevention. Sometimes we see that they move in a building during construction, and we've had many examples of this. The City of New Orleans over the many years have built a lot of new construction. And a great example of this is we had a building from our parks department, and no, not parks, it was our recreational department. It was a brand new building, and it had a really raging mouse infestation. And it really took pre-baiting and snap trapping to get that infestation eliminated. Now, what is very important for all of you to know is that rodents, they will seize every opportunity to enter that structure. That can be an open door in the back of a restaurant or at a loading dock where you have a trash compactor. Open vents, cracks, you name it, they're going to get in. And because of their body shape, right, their tactile and sensory organs, and we've talked a lot about behavior already, they are constantly probing in their environment to see how they can get food, water, and shelter. So what we normally do as we approach a particular facility, a building, and again, every single building is different, the way it is designed and maintained. We really look at sealing the envelope of the building first. And as just a reminder, it only takes a half an inch for a mouse to enter, only a quarter of an inch for a mouse, half an inch for a rat. So those are pretty small gaps. Start thinking about insects, it's even smaller than those spaces. So imagine a door that's open or cracked. Let's just use your own house. The weather becomes a little bit warmer. It's super nice outside. It's still a little cool, right? You open and keep that door, let's say your front kitchen door, cracked. Food odors are coming out of that building. Heat is coming out of that building. So that is going to be all those trigger signs for those animals that are very curious to go in and inspect and potentially get into that structure. Now, we say this, and we say this for homeowners as well. You really need to learn and be aware of what those signs are for rodent activity. It's those rub marks, the burrows, the gnaw marks, all those different things. And everyone, if it's a homeowner or a building or business owner, all those things you should recognize and be able to inspect yourself, at least you're around the building. If you're in a hurry, right, we want to make sure you focus on rodent vulnerable areas, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. And you should also make those repairs or modifications promptly. And so if there's an opening in the roof, or you've got an issue with a window that doesn't close properly, you really do need to address those sooner than later, because again, these animals are constantly exploring. Let's say you may have food odors or heat that is leaving through those spaces, and that's going to attract those animals there. We talked about a quarter of an inch and a half an inch. If these animals can get their skull through that gap or that hole, the rest of the body is going. So we like to carry the 35 cents and the number 2 pencil with us because it really puts the sizes of those holes into perspective. We may not necessarily remember what a half an inch looks like, but everybody knows what a quarter feels like. So pretty important. So as I mentioned, this is from Dr. Corrigan's book. If that skull can go through that opening, the rest of the body is going to shimmy through and make it in. And again, I want to remember, and we talked about this already, is that their teeth grow continuously and they have very hard enamel. And so there may be materials that are soft, which is copper and aluminum or soft metals. Those animals are going to chew right through that. So you really, when you're doing any kind of pest proofing or closing holes, especially with these materials, you want to use something that's very hard, such as stainless steel, so that they do not, stainless steel so that they're not able to chew through those materials. So when you're doing an inspection, there's some things that you really need to take into consideration. First is, well, how big is this problem, right? How big is this infestation? And we have to understand how these pests are entering your structure, your home, whatever location that you have. Where's the food and water coming from? And very important, where are they bedding down? So is there a nest somewhere? Are there burrows somewhere? Where are these animals and where is the harborage? And all of these questions are going to be answered through a very thorough inspection. So again, a good inspection, right? Good pest control gets to the root of the problem. We have a whole hour. We did a whole hour in IPM, rodent IPM. And really that is the point of that. And what we try to do is we want to deprive these animals. We want to make them stressed. And that is removing the food, that's removing the water, that's removing the shelter or the harborage, and even ways how they can get around. And pest proofing plays a very important role of that. Now, this is a pretty amazing photograph. And actually, this is a pretty new photo. And I'm going to let you sort of look at that photo while I talk about the slide, and we're going to talk about what this is. So we have to understand what we are looking at. And it could be droppings, it could be tracks and gnaw marks, as we've already shown in previous presentations, burrows and runways. It's amazing. Once you know what to look for, especially the runways, you are trained to have your eye on all that ground cover, and even possibly grass, that you know exactly who was making that trail. Urine stains, also just learning how to do that. And of course, any live or dead rodents. So what's the story of this? Well, this is a pretty recent photo actually from last Christmas, or at least the holiday season. So there was an employee that was in an office. It's a holiday, right? So there's a lot of food that are in offices. People keep food in their desks, which they should not. And this person went on vacation. So there was food and chocolate and all kinds of good stuff. And so this rat took advantage of a delicious, fantastic place to rest and hang out. And so these are the marks, the paw prints of at least one rat that we know of that was on this blanket in the office. So quite a spectacular photograph. Now, I love talking about trash, right? So waste management, keeping things clean. So you must make sure that the garbage bins have a lid that closes. Very critical to keep that trash pest proofed, right, away from these animals. So that's one way of pest proofing. Please don't forget about that plug at the bottom of these dumpsters. Oftentimes that plug is missing, and they will walk in right through there. But I also want you to think about the lines, right, in this enclosure. It is a perfect location where they will climb up, they will walk along that ledge, and literally jump into that dumpster and get everything that they need. One of the things that we deal with a lot, and especially commercial properties, is how often do they get their trash emptied? It costs money, right, to empty those trash bins in the dumpsters, but they really need to increase the frequency if their dumpster lids are not closing and it is overflowing. It will cause them, and it will cause the entire area issues if those bins are not emptied on a regular basis. And it really leads into this, where somebody, a pest management company or even a homeowner, is doing amazing work in their property. But if they have this trash that's in the back, they will always have that pressure pushing on to that structure. And ultimately, those animals could get in. They could gnaw a hole. You saw very strong teeth, right? Or it will find a way in. So very critical that you look at the entire area and make sure that the food, the waste, all of that is dealt with. This is online. You can go to @NOLA-Mosquito. You may have to scroll back a little bit, but we worked with our sanitation department and came up with some basic guidelines that were already in the municipal code. Very important for you to understand that municipal code. What are the rules for trash management? And bottom line here is proper dumpster management is rodent prevention. So we have to make sure that the folks that are working in those facilities, you have to explain to them the implication, what they should be doing, because they may just not know the rules. This is another thing that we've talked about already in a previous webinar, but open trash cans, very common in municipalities. But even, for example, businesses will have an open trash can. So that essentially is a feeding trough for all kinds of animals. So it is absolutely critical that these are emptied multiple times a day. You cannot leave trash in the evening. And so you have to work with those municipal workers or whoever's servicing those areas to make sure the food is not there. You can also and should go to the option of a closed can. This happens to be a Big Belly, and it's an expensive version of it, but it can be as easy as a roll cart with a lid on it. So you don't have to use a top of the line product. And we talked a little bit already about a run, right? The signs to look for. And if you didn't know, if you look at the picture on the left, there's a sidewalk that's going down some rocks to the Mississippi River. You would think, hey, people are walking and making a path. But actually, it's not. It was rodents that were hiding out and living in the rocks, and they were traveling back and forth to an open garbage can to feed. Now, I love this story. So if you look at this picture, you could say, okay, I want you all to think about what is going on here. And so Timmy's going to talk here in a little bit, but Timmy got a call to come out here. And we were told that, hey, there are rats in this particular area. And so he comes out, looks at the situation, and he realized what was going on. But what actually happened was everybody was giving themselves a high five saying, problem solved, it looks amazing. So I think everyone's played I think it's Find Waldo or Wally, one of those one of those games. So let's look at where the issues are. One, I would say there's a couple of garbage cans that don't have lids on them. So that is something that you should absolutely, if you're in a scenario like this, make sure you call your trash company and get those cans repaired. Very important. Every city is a little different in the process, but make sure you know what those rules are. There's plenty of water there. It had rained. But when I look a little bit closer, there is a gap. And there it is. And so, yes, it's a clip art. Okay, so we put it there. But there is an opening in that door frame where those animals were going from the open garbage cans, roll carts, into that property. So that has to get closed. Otherwise, the issues will not get resolved. If I want to look even a little bit closer, there's a tree with a tree pit right there that has soil, and there's some other storm drains. So those are all areas that you need to look at. Now, there are lots of rodent vulnerable areas that you need to be worried about. And the questions I would ask is, where's your water source? Your rats need to drink free water every day. Where's the food source? And it could be that it's pet food. It could be that it's a fruit tree. It could be that there's, I don't know, food in a pantry inside of a house. I mean, it can be all kinds of things. Look and see where the pipes, the wires, the conduit is going into that building. Where are the vents? A lot of times vents are not screened properly. And so it's just an easy access to the building. I just showed you an example of a door frame. They will chew the bottom of the doors. And I think we have a picture of that coming up, but we also know it's no big deal for them to chew through wood. Thick vegetation too close to the structure, that's a great example in this photograph. That's a bridge for those animals to climb up onto the building and find their way in. And of course, harborage. Again, that picture has a great example. You've got a shed, you've got a space underneath that shed that's elevated. Those are all places that they could be hanging out. Now, there's a lot of different inexpensive materials that can be used for sealing and filling cracks. 100% silicone is what we are asking you to use, not caulk, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And have one of those caulk guns with you. Everyone should carry that with you because that's a very easy thing to do, inexpensive, and you're going to be closing those cracks and those and sealing that building. Steel wool or copper mesh, that's another thing you can carry with you. We don't advise that you use it alone. Typically, you're going to push it into the hole, and then if it's concrete or brick or something, you're going to also patch it up with other harder material. Door sweeps should be part of what you have. Not only the over-the-counter door sweeps, but if you have doors that open and close, for example, that are closed to a dumpster or open and close a million times a day, you are going to have to use the heavy-duty products. Excluder is a great example. You can go to their website, but you're going to have to use something that's more heavy-duty than off the shelf. Concrete and ready mix, they come in a small little container that all you need to do is put water in, use a trowel, staple gun, drill gun, a hammer, screws and nails. That should all be part of your kit that you have with you so that you can address those issues as they arrive. And so where do you begin, right? So we talked about the envelope of the building, but Make sure if you're inside that you eliminate those food sources and hiding spots. And what does that mean? That means getting rid of all that clutter that is in the corner, those boxes, the clothes in the corner, who knows where. You must get rid of that. And food should be in, not only just in a pantry, but it should be in the refrigerator or in glass or in metal or some sort of sturdy bin. Very, very critical. Look at your pet, the way you feed your pets, right? So a lot of times there'll be pet food that's in a kitchen or some location in your building that you are servicing. So lots of opportunities there for rodents to feed on those different food sources. And then of course, food in garbage cans, right? So very common, for example, if you are in an office scenario, people will bring all kinds of food to their office or desks, and that goes right into a bin, a garbage bin that likely does not have a lid to it. So it's really important that just trash and garbage in general in buildings are dealt with appropriately and are placed in closed garbage cans, never left unserviced at the end of the day. So these are just a couple of examples. We go around, we take lots of photographs. And so this is a good one where you can see that somebody didn't want to go outside. The trash is, left with food waste in there, is left next to an open bin that's also overflowing. So very likely, right underneath sinks, it's at the corner of the baseboard. I bet you if you open up that sink, very likely, especially if there's plumbing, there's going to be a gap right there. So that would be the place where these animals could be getting in and out. And again, food is readily available right there. I want everybody to look, especially during their inspection, at the heat sources, your warm spots. So where are those? It's the water heater. It's underneath the fridge. Very common, actually, stoves as well. Inside of furniture as well would be another location. So there's lots of places that you can check. Your dark areas, actually another one that we see too is going to be with dryers, for example. That's another common location. I want you to think about those dark areas behind appliances. Oftentimes that conduit has a hole, right, to connect up to that stove or other appliance. Look underneath the closet, the cabinets, the pantries, under your sinks. Those are usually open. And, when it comes to an inspection, you cannot miss an area. And if it is quiet, it's an attic, not frequently visited by people, right? You're going to have to go take a look. Very common in some locations. I think in the northern parts where you have basements, people store a lot of stuff underground, in the below ground in the basement. Folks that have crawl spaces, that's another place that becomes an issue. Here in Louisiana, we don't have basements. So many people store their stuff upstairs in the attic. And imagine the openings with a roof rat or a Nora rat coming in and just using it for nesting material, or if it finds maybe a kid craft that had beans, right, glued onto it, it's going to eat those beans. So very important to store everything in plastic and get rid of the clutter. Clutter, right, it's going to provide areas for resting, right, and also for them to store their food. So these animals will store food. They'll go get seeds and nuts and all kinds of stuff, and they will save it for another day. And to top it off, they also leave pheromones so that are going to mark their turf, their territory, and they're releasing it in urine and in droppings. So it's really important that not only are you doing the inspection, let's say you have an area to clean up, that you're using a 10% bleach or a disinfectant. Now, we want to make sure that you never, ever, ever vacuum up droppings. Okay, that's a whole nother story. I really want you to go to @NolanMosquito. We have a really easy to read how you should clean up droppings. And you can also go to the Centers for Disease Control to clean up droppings. So we don't want to aerosolize anything and anybody be sick. So here's another great example, right? Same house, and this is underneath a sink. And clearly there is a pipe penetration that's coming into that building. So that makes it, even for your pest management professional, it makes it really difficult for them to do a thorough inspection. So it's absolutely critical that that clutter is removed. You can access the entire location. It looks even where there's been some moisture damage. And so those potentially could be soft spots that you need to double check. And, even small little holes we talked about around those plumbing penetrations, these animals will use their teeth and they will expand those holes to get in and out of those locations. So you can actually see that some of the pots that are there have a little bit of food residual. They will absolutely go and lick that up. So everything needs to be clean, and then use, materials to close those openings. If you look very carefully, you can actually even see some fur that these animals have been moving in and out. So that's going to tell you absolutely, like, you've got rodent issues here. Make sure that that is closed, clean the whole area to prevent entry. There are some temporary fixes. We've talked about it, and you might be in the field. You need to deal with the situation. Yeah, stuff some, stainless steel sort of mesh in that hole, but you will have to come back and do a permanent fix, because eventually there is a possibility that they will push that out. So an escutcheon plate would be a great example that you can put around those pipes to make sure it's almost like a clamshell. It'll close those openings. You screw it into the wall, or you're using concrete over that stainless steel mesh. Whoop. Now, we had mentioned doors, and you can see in the top left picture with the arrow, there's a rub mark there with those animals going back and forth, but they also chewed at the bottom of the door to expand that opening for them to move in and out. This is the ideal place to use a heavy duty door sweep in order to prevent those animals from coming in. Here's another great example at a door, with a door. So again, this is wood, so it is going to have to be fixed. Otherwise, this is just free entry from those animals from inside and out. They've also, and you can also put here a metal threshold is actually broken. You can see that. So you would change the wood out and put in that metal threshold. And actually, you can actually see here part of this door at the bottom is damaged with that weatherproofing. So that needs to get done as well. So not too expensive. It's just really a project for a weekend, but very, very impactful. So that not so beautiful here, but this actually was a project that we were at a school and we needed to close an opening immediately. So again, it's very important to have the tools that you need, the materials that you need on site, some metal that was cut with the specialized scissors, and some screws, and we closed up that opening. So it's a temporary fix potentially, but sometimes you just have to stop it from these animals coming in and out, especially in a very sensitive location as such as a school. Now, many of us have garage doors. Ooh, and so garage doors, if by nature, are very leaky. So they go up and down. And I want everybody to go look at their own garage doors and see where the openings are. So that's why it's super critical that what you have inside the garage is maintained very carefully in bins or metal or wherever it may be. So what happens is, of course, you can put door sweeps and compression seals, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But as the doors come down, they're still very leaky, and you're going to be looking for that light that's there, and that warm air is going to escape. And so a lot of people keep their pet food, bird food, pantries, all kinds of stuff in their garage. So it's very, very critical that those things are stored properly. So there's lots of different kinds of materials that are out there. This just happens to be compression seals. This comes out of Dr. Corrigan's book. There's some examples for overhead doors or even sliding and swinging doors. Lots of options out there, but those compression seals are going to close that gap. Even having a brush seal, yes, can they go through it? Absolutely, but it's still going to deter them in many cases from entering in that door or that building, whatever you're trying to protect. There are lots of different vinyl and rubber seal strips as well. And then again, I really encourage you to look at some of the heavy duty products that are out there. Some have materials inside of them that have metal. So if those animals were to chew that compression seal or that sweep, it's going to run into that metal and it's going to stop them from there. So lots of different options out there. You really need to see what is appropriate for each scenario. So with this, I am going to transfer it over to Timmy. He's going to talk more about pest proofing and inspections. Timmy?
Okay, everybody, we're going to start with me doing a video. So I'm going to take the easy route for a second.
Hey. Okay.
Oh, crud. It's touchscreen. Okay, well, I was saying the dryer vents blow out warm air in winter, and that will attract the animals there. So that's something else to consider. Okay, here's our example of a dryer vent. We're looking up, and this one here doesn't have a screen. This has a different device. This has a flap in it, so that when air blows through, the flap opens and allows the air and the excess dryer dust to blow out and all that excess dryer lint to blow out. And then when the dryer is not turned on, the flap then swings back and closes back. Everything has an default to it. With these, you have to be careful and go monitor it periodically because that lint will build up on those hinges on it and cause the vent to stay open permanently. So just be sure to monitor that regularly. Okay. Oh, this is a great picture. Can everybody tell what's going on? So the vent has been ripped off here. And not just that, that's the hole where that dryer duct is going to be coming out. When we look close, that is a rub mark and probably even some urine dripping down there from animals entering. So this size hole, this goes far beyond rodents. This hole is big enough for a possum, a raccoon, a cat, maybe even a small child to enter your house. So these issues need to be addressed. And we need to read these signs to show us when these animals are taking advantage of this. So Claudia was mentioning earlier about garage doors and how they're often not sealed right. When you just are doing a glancing look walking by, this gets overlooked sometimes because we get complacent. We need to get on our hands and knees and look closer, because when we look closer, that gap, there's a hose pipe running under this garage door. So even if it had the right seal on the garage door, it wouldn't seal it rat or mouse tight. Plus, it doesn't have that seal to begin with, and the gap is wide enough so I can shove my entire hand under. That is more than enough to allow access for any rodent or for any Norway or roof rat or house mouse to enter your structure. So where to begin outside? I like to start looking for my water sources first. This tends to be something that draws the animals really quickly to it. And a lot of times too, the water source allows me to tell if I even have a rodent issue in the area. Because there's usually wet dirt around it or wet sand or wet patch where I can look and pay attention and see, do I see tracks around there? And they'll defecate and mark the territory in that area. So it's a good spot to look for droppings too. Food sources. If you know outside, if you know there's a vegetable garden, or in our case where we're at right now, I'm watching the fig trees because our figs are growing rapidly right now. They're not ripe yet. It's going to be another probably 2 weeks. But I know as soon as those fig trees have ripe figs on them, the roof rats are going to tear those things apart. So it's a matter of getting out there and harvesting your fruit before the animals can take advantage of it, or using that to your advantage and putting out control devices and baiting them with the items that are ripe at the time. So things to consider. In a perfect world, do we really need that fig tree in our yard? We could cut it down. I mean, but figs are delicious. Or can I cut down that pecan tree? Pecans are delicious too. And I also like the shade in summer. So sometimes modifying the landscaping isn't the way to go also. Food sources, bird feeders. This is so key to a lot of rodent issues in neighborhoods. The birds do a really good job of feeding themselves without our help. And it can lead to bad things. So birds are nature's exterminators. A lot of these bird species that we're feeding with our bird feeders, actually, if we quit feeding them, would be going out and catching small insects and spiders and other things and bringing them back to their young. So they're doing pest control for us. I had a finch nest in my windowsill once, and I watched it all day. The male and female go back and forth to feed their young, and they always came back with insects. So yeah, that's my argument. Quit putting out bird feeders, because really I haven't seen a bird feeder yet that doesn't double as a mouse or rat feeder or a possum or raccoon feeder. And I recommend go on YouTube and search rat versus bird feeder for some very entertaining videos. And can't harp on this enough. Make sure your trash cans are secure and the trash areas are secure. Harborage. This is a very difficult thing to do outdoors because these animals are so adaptable. And a lot of times, nori rats don't need much arborage when you live in a hole in the ground. But we can discourage them. We can keep our yards tidy and keep them from getting overgrown. We don't need a big pile of brush in the backyard or old dead tree branches. We can either burn them if you're in a place that allows burning of debris like that, or break them down, put them into compost piles, put them out with the garbage, just get them off your property. So, as I said, let's pick our fruits and veggies when they're ripe. Don't leave them to hit the ground. Bird feeders definitely attract it. Oh, and chickens. Chickens are mouse machines. They do draw a lot of rats as well, but more than anything, I find if I have chickens in a yard, mice are not far behind, and the rats usually aren't far behind them either. There are not many options for this because it's beyond. If anyone's ever done chicken work, securing chicken feed is difficult. You can do it inside, but once you put that feed out for the chickens, it's an uncontrollable option, really. And also, the rodents will eat the eggs, they'll eat the chickens, they'll eat the chicks. These are all issues. I wish I had solutions to some of these problems. If it was up to me, I would not keep chickens in an urban area to begin with. So let's look closer and let's be keen observers. And what are we looking at? We have a bird feeder on a tree. Oh, we can't tell what I was pointing at. The arrow covered it. There's a second bird feeder on the tree. And when we look closer, we look behind and we look at our picture on our right. We have a bird feeder hanging from a tree. We have a bird bath in the front yard. So these are all issues. These people were complaining about the rodents on their property. Well, they're drawing the rodents to their property. And part of pest proofing is eliminating food sources. So go out, and it's really difficult to explain to our customers or to citizens that, don't feed the birds. One of favorite rodent control propaganda posters I've ever seen was out in another state, which will remain nameless, has posters that say, feed a pigeon, feed a rat. Which in my situation, I'd say feed a bird, feed a rat. Putting out those bird feeders is counterproductive to rodent control. And looking at this side, I see the bird bath, which they want free water. And it's not just that. This becomes a mosquito issue. We can see the leaves in there. That water is going to get stagnant. It's going to become a breeding issue too. So multiple reasons not to put the bird bath out there. Dump it over, etc. If you are in Southeast Louisiana or along the Gulf Coast, why are we putting out bird baths anyway? We have no shortage of places for birds to bathe here. They can go find water. Trust me, they're not going to die without our bird baths. So, here's a good example of everything you could do wrong. So they called me up and said, oh, we have rats. We don't know why we have rats in our yard. So I got to do my inspection, and this is a rat extravaganza. So we're going to start on the right and go from the right and work our way left. So we look at the lower right arrow, and on that lower right arrow is pointing up to a satsuma tree. Satsumas are a type of citrus or an orange that we have here in Southeast Louisiana. If you leave them on your tree like that, the roof rats will come, and a lot of times they'll eat the rind off the fruit and leave the fruit on the tree. I don't know why. It's just crazy the way they do that. Or I've seen them drag satsumas back to the burrow and bury them and feed on them months later. So moving on to our next arrow, second on the right. This one is pointing down, and that's a garden, and they're growing raw spinach in that garden right there. So do mice and rats eat spinach? Spoiler, yes, they do. Often and a lot. That is like one of my favorite go-to baits on occasion for house mice in winter. I find raw leaf spinach works pretty well. They're not expecting it and they go to it pretty quick. So yeah, I should save my trapping tips for the next presentation. We're going to our third arrow now, pointing down, and we have a bird feeder. So far already, we have 3 food sources. And remember, as from all our previous webinars, we are keen observers. We are detectives. We are looking at every little detail. As we get to this bird feeder, we should have noticed something in the background of this. In the background of this photo, it is very thick, lush vegetation back there. For anyone not familiar with those vines growing back there, that is a very distinct type of squash that we have here in Southeast Louisiana called a melliton. And those are melliton vines. I didn't include an arrow to it because it's so obscure, but I decided to just enlighten everybody with that little bit of random trivia back there. But these things grow on vines, and the roof rats will hang from the vines and eat these fruits off the vines or eat these squash off the vines. We're going to look even closer behind, and those trees behind. What type of trees are those? Those are live oak trees, which means they produce acorns. And yes, rats and mice will live happy and healthy on acorns as a primary or supplementary food source. So let's keep going now to arrow 4. And arrow 4 is we're going to call that the one on the top left. And what are we pointing at there? We're pointing at the fact that they have vegetation touching the house. That is a camellia bush, which grows beautiful flowers, but not a food source. But what it is, it's an access point, and it's touching the structure. So this bridge is not just for rodents. This bridge can be used by ants, by other pests, by roaches, by other things like that to cross onto the structure and then gain access to it. So plants should be trimmed back, if not totally removed, at least 3 feet from the structure. And if you have branches like that, the branches need to be trimmed back 9 feet from the structure, or else the rodent can make the jump. With small shrubs, 3 feet is significant, is enough. But with a tree or a tree limb, you have to go back 9 feet. We're going to look now at our next arrow, and our next arrow is on the left, second down, and it's pointing at the structure in the background. That is a chicken coop. And as I said earlier, chicken coops are mouse and rat factories. So we have multiple food sources. We have a way for the animals to access the structure easily. What else do we have? We're going to look at our very last arrow pointing over to this large pile of clutter with the pirogue. A pirogue is a type of canoe that we have here in Southeast Louisiana. It's not quite a canoe, but it's like its French cousin. But this pile of clutter down here, this is a perfect storm for rodents when you add all this together. You've got all these various food sources, and you know that chicken coop is going to have a water source for chickens. Also, I'm guessing that they're watering their garden. So they're probably coming out and spraying a lot of water down on the spinach plants as well as the melliton vines. So this is a lot of opportunity for these animals, and this is why this house has a horrible rodent issue. Okay, we're going to move on to another house and looking at all the vulnerable points on this house. First, we're going to start again, bottom right, and we're looking at, we can tell by the color of the grass, because once again, we're going to be detectives, keen observers, look at all the clues left in here. What are we seeing? We're seeing dead grass at the top level of it. And a lot of the other grass is browning, which means this is fall. The season for these peppers has passed. And I get this asked a lot. Well, what if we use red pepper to keep the rats out? Capsaicin doesn't work on rodents. They don't care. They'll eat ghost peppers off of ghost pepper plant. Seen it myself with my own 2 eyes. These peppers, in this case, we had some red jalapenos in one bush, and these, I believe, look like red bell peppers. uh, guess what? Rats and mice will eat them. They're happy doing that. So these plants, the vegetables need to be removed from them, and the plants need to be removed. They should be pulled up or plowed under. Then we're looking over here, and we go to our next arrow, and our next arrow is the right upper corner above the truck, right, pointing at that air conditioning unit. If anyone's familiar with these window units, you'll know that when the window goes up, and this is on old designs, modern windows work a little bit different than this, but if you're ever dealing with a house that's hasn't been renovated since the 50s or 60s or 70s, you're going to run into windows like this a lot. They're going to leave a gap behind there so the animals are able to access, and we're going to have a close-up picture of that coming up. And then we move to the third arrow, which is in front of the truck, about middle of the picture, pointing at the AC unit. And why is this an issue? What do AC units do? They drip, they leak. So looking beneath this unit, you're going to find a big pool of water that provides a nice, cool, clean opportunity for these rodents to get a drink. And to our arrow on the far left pointed up, we're pointing at a spot where the soffit right there, the fascia right there, the flashing on it has been pulled up from wind damage from a hurricane. So, back to chickens. I love this. We have a nice big chicken coop out here. We see we have multiple food sources, and we're going to be keen observers on this one too. We're going to look closer. What did he do with his food and water for his chickens? He has them elevated. They're hanging when we look close. So obviously, excuse me, obviously this gentleman has had issues before with rodents accessing his animals' feed. Looking even closer though, do you think this works? I don't think this works at all. I think the rats are perfectly capable of climbing up, balancing, and getting to that food. But he gets an A for effort because at least he's trying something. So let's see where it gets a real fail point. Now, when we zoom out from the chicken coop, oh my goodness, all that overgrowth in there, all that clutter in there. How are we supposed to do our jobs? How are we supposed to do an inspection, put down boxes, put down traps? How can we get anything done when that's what we're dealing with? So part of pest proofing is habitat modification, landscaping, landscape modification. And I've had people tell me, well, I don't know how to do that. That's not my job. My recommendation is hire somebody who knows how to do this and make it part of your job. Make it a chargeable service where habitat modification, landscaping cleanup, brush cleanup, debris cleanup becomes part of your pest control service, part of your business model. Because if you actually want to get control of these animals, you're going to have to handle these issues too. It's not as simple as just we're going to throw boxes every 10 feet, every 20 feet, and keep poisoning them constantly. There's a lot more into this than that. So we're looking at another chicken coop. And what's the arrow pointing at? That is how this gentleman decides to feed his chickens with the open feeding trough method. We're going to look on the side of this chicken coop, and what do we see? A large wood stack. Once again, he's built perfect habitat for his enemies, for the rodents. He's given them shelter. He's given them access to food. We can see the hose there where he comes out, and there's also, if you can make it out, that there's a large black trough right here where that's the water source for these animals. So everything is delivered to the rodents. There's no need to travel, daily service. And this gentleman wants to know why he's losing eggs to rats. Because they got tired of eating chicken feed. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. Looking at this, what do we have? We have a navel orange tree with fruit on the ground underneath of it. It's touching the structure. This is giving a food, a bridge, and access. And what do we see here? These gutters, and we're going to be keen observers. Follow, and I know it gets a little blurry as we go, but if we follow that gutter line down, we can see these gutters are not maintained. There are plants growing out of them further down the line, which means when it rains, this gutter likely holds a good bit of water. So we have food, water, shelter, all in one easy serving for these animals. So they don't have to travel far here either. I believe I have a picture of, yes. We can see where the rodents have been out there chewing on the citrus. So pick it up when it hits the ground. everyone I'm sure has noticed this common theme. This time it's grapefruits. And yes, this person too complained, oh my God, I don't know why I have a rodent issue. And I said, do you have any food sources? Well, we don't have any food sources. So as soon as I got to the property, I saw the large grapefruit tree with no harvested fruit and fruit on the ground. Yeah, this is an easy fix. Pick the fruit. And I love this too because the guy told me, I don't eat grapefruit. Then why did you plant a grapefruit tree? I thought it would look pretty. I said, maybe you can cut down a grapefruit tree then. In the end, he did cut down a grapefruit tree. There's a cameo by Leia, the most wonderful dog ever. What are we looking at here? Another situation where people are putting the trees too close to the house. When they planted this tree, the house, I guarantee I'm very familiar with this house. This house is over 200 years old. And that fruit tree is maybe 30 years old. So they knew how close it would be to the structure when they built it. And this guy calls me up complaining and going, oh my God, the rats are so bad. I can't understand it. What are we doing wrong? And I said, well, you did plant a fruit tree, within 20 feet of your house where the animals can jump, no problem, to access your roof. And they were coming in on the second floor at a window where they chewed out the corner of the window to access. So we are our own worst enemies. As I said earlier, trim that tree back at least 9 feet. We overlook easy water sources sometimes. So what's going on here? This is a multiple threat issue here. This is one where I see this often and a lot, where this ditch holds water year round, whether it's raining or not, because there's an underground leak from a city-owned pipe that's broken and leaking water into this ditch. It's giving the rodents a spot in this neighborhood to come get fresh water to drink every day. So sometimes the problem is beyond us as technicians and as people who are trying to fix these problems. Sometimes this is a municipal issue or state issue or federal issue, which we need to contact the necessary agencies and step out our comfort zone and be like, look, you have a leak in this area. This leak is causing rodent issues. Please fix this leak. Be sure to document. Prove your case. Show what's causing. And what's another issue from this? This caused a mosquito problem too. From rodent standpoint, though, we're keen observers. What do we notice in here? There's garbage in this ditch too. And I've come across this situation where road garbage or street garbage and street trash has been the reason why the roads were there, where there are areas where for one reason or another, people are just emptying their garbage on the side of the roads in these spots. I don't really understand why, but there'll be an old bag of Wendy's or an old bag of McDonald's or whatever food, just fast food junk thrown into that ditch. And the rats have learned that this is a good spot to hang out. For some reason, people throw us food here, so we're going to build a colony right here. And usually it ties to a central food source that's always delivered or frequently there and a constant water source. So let's watch a video. This goes with one of my favorite myths ever about mice and rats. So there's a myth that mice and rats have no bones, or that their bones are made of cartilage, or that they can do some kind of weird contortion act, and that's how they're able to fit through holes. No, mice are able to go through a hole a 1/4 inch in size. Rats can fit through a hole a 1/2 inch in size. Why? It's really simple. We're going to watch the video again. It's because that's the width of their head, and their shoulders are the same width as their head. So if the head fits, shoulders follow, whole body comes through. It is quite amazing. And we're keen observers, right? We're detectives. What are we watching? What does she do? She has to make the hole bigger to fit through. So this little fat mouse here, she came out, she went down, she gorged herself for the evening, and she was so big from eating that she had to make the hole bigger to get back through the same hole she came with to begin with. If it had cartilage for bones, or if it could dislocate its bones, or if it had no bones, why would it have to make the hole bigger? No, their skeletons are just as rigid as ours. There is no trick to it. And someone's going to tell me that they saw a video online of a hinge joint on a rat's ribs where that they fold, or in a mouse rib cage where they fold, and that's how they're doing it. And this is my challenge to anyone who wants to show me that video. You can come next time you have a dead animal in your hand, a dead mouse or rat in your hands, feel it, cut it open, look for that joint, send me a picture when you find it. I've cut open thousands of mice and rats at this point, and I've yet to find that joint or that hinge rib. So it's amazing what you can do with the internet or with a computer. What are we getting at this with pest proofing? We're going to look further closer at this video too. What is it doing? Where is this mouse going? He's going into a drop ceiling and into that hollow block wall. That is what we're getting at more than anything. People overlook hollow block walls. They overlook drop ceilings too, but we talked about that during our inspections presentation. During this one, we're going to talk about that hollow block wall because we need to do pest proofing on it as an industry and as a group in total because we overlook it so much. A lot of our modern constructions are hollow block, or at least they're hollow block with a veneer around it. So what happens to hollow block walls over time? People will run conduit through it. Maybe a landscaper goes by with some equipment and knocks a corner off somewhere. It gets holes in it over time, be it from whatever happened, some past construction or somebody just accidentally popped a hole in it. The problem is if you have an exterior hole in that hollow block, once a rodent enters, we can look at this picture and see that these blocks don't line up exact. So it leaves a little pathway that they can travel through in there. And it is extremely rare to see a hollow block wall filled with concrete or backfilled with anything because it would just be so expensive and time consuming. So once the animals get in here, they can get all the way up to the top to the drop ceilings. And from the drop ceilings, they have the entire structure at their disposal. So it's looking closer. It's going to seal all those gaps and holes on a hollow block wall on the outside before they can get inside and take total advantage of it. So they're excellent climbers. And I believe in our first webinar, we showed the mouse hanging upside down from the screen in the cage. I've heard this often and a lot of another favorite myth: mice don't climb. Baloney. Mice are just so good at climbing, and rodents in general are just amazing at it. If you've seen a squirrel climb, a squirrel is just a rat with really good PR. So if a squirrel can do it, a rat has no problem doing it. So don't forget to look up. Look for those wires, those branches, those fences, those runways. It's not just looking at ground level, because working with Norway rats and with house mice, a lot of times we get into that look down mentality when those animals, just like roof rats, have every ability to go up and to enter our structures from above too. So here's a great picture we're looking at. We can easily tell how the rat was approaching the building. We see this AC line running up the side of the building. Perfect. We see that hole at the top. Now let's get a reverse view. That's what it looks like from the inside where the AC line enters. We see that hole. We see the daylight. We know the animal is coming. And I didn't do this patch. The person who owns the structure did. Let's see what they did. This is awesome. So they use yellow expanding foam to seal the hole. And we have a male Norway rat above that, looking down at it, looking like this is going to take me all of 30 seconds to get through this, because it took them all of 30 seconds to get through it. The yellow expanding foam, it doesn't work to seal out rodents at all. In fact, it actually works against you a lot of times because it holds pathogens. It can hold disgust. It can hold scents in it. It's very porous, so they can urinate, defecate, and that stuff can get mashed in there, and they'll leave beautiful rub marks on yellow expanding foam. And there are a lot of foams on the market specifically made and formulated for working with rodents and wildlife. I recommend doing Google search or going to one of these distributors and asking. But even those, we recommend, if you're going to use that, use some other material. No one pays us to hawk their products. Companies like Excluder, though, make specific meshes you can shove in these holes, and then you can hit it with those sealants or with those expanding foams that are made specifically for this. It works sort of like rebar in there to hold it in place and make make it more secure, so the rodent doesn't want to chew through it as much. So just helpful hints and tips. And I just finished discussing this, how we often have the holes in the hollow blocks, and they often get overlooked because, these become the little condos for our mice and rats in the walls, where it's easy spots for them. Oh, and weep holes on buildings. If you go around brick structures, first I'll tell you, please do not seal the weep holes. They're there for a reason on the structure. They need it to breathe, especially in South Louisiana. That's important for humidity issues in homes. That's why we have the weep holes. But you can go get a piece of aluminum screen, or they even sell it at stores where it's pre-cut. These little wedges you can shove into a weep hole, and that'll secure it so that mice and roaches can't go through and into there. So very easy to take care of that, but so small that it gets overlooked often and a lot. See, here's our pictures. Here's our arrows pointing to our weep holes here. And we can see that that gap is about 1/4 of an inch. That's about perfect size for a house mouse to fit its little head through, or even a pup to fit its head through. And once they're in, they're in. And what else is coming out of there? The smells of the house, the temperatures of the house. So there are things that are drawing the rodents to these entry points as well. And as I said earlier, mice don't climb, right? That up there, the top arrow is pointing to a mouse hole. It even has a beautiful rub mark. So the animals are coming all the way from the bottom to the top. Now, Claudia earlier was talking about dumpsters, and one thing to consider with dumpsters is the dumpster enclosure and the type of enclosure. Also, make sure that when the dumpster is pushed into the dumpster enclosure, that you're able to close the lid still, because a lot of times they don't take that into account, and they take the lid and open it and then push the dumpster in. Well, you'd have to remove the whole dumpster out of the enclosure just to close the lid on the dumpster. So try to make sure that your equipment fits the area you're given. But back to dumpster construction, why would I even care about a dumpster enclosure so much? A lot of times that's your reservoir. That's why your building keeps getting reinfested. Because when we have, if you're ever dealt with fast food restaurants or box stores, you're going to know a lot of those companies and a lot of these businesses have these hollow block dumpster enclosures around their dumpsters. So they'll get these little holes, as I said earlier, from construction or just over time, or they weren't sealed properly. And when the mice or rats find these holes and enter, well, we're delivering them food at the dumpster every day. Well, what happens when the population there gets too big? Then these animals go out and they go investigating and they go find our structures. And that's why we keep getting these constant reinfestations at these sites, because your reservoir is only 30 to 100 feet from your building. So it's very important that we go out and find it and see how easy it was to fix. I went out, I found the entry point, I sealed it up with some aluminum screen, and now the mice aren't going chewing through this brick. They're doomed to live out the rest of their short lives inside of that hollow block wall. But that's what's necessary. See, shoving those gaps, reinforcing it with the screen, that is the way to go. So how do you solve this? This is a tough one. When you come across a crack in the side of a building or side of a structure where the rodents are entering, and I love this. Do we have a close up on the next shot? No, we don't. We have a video. We're going to go back to that picture. So I have a close up in another presentation of this, and the rats have gnawed that concrete there over time to make it big enough to make a perfect little jerry hole there. So it's just, they can fit their little round bodies through even quicker. And you can tell which hole is being used more frequently by the lack of sebum. By all the rubs on this hole on the right, it's obvious to tell that's the hard one. But when we're looking closer, we're keen detectives. What else are we noticing? A lot of patch. We have tried to seal this hole over and over and over. This is difficult. This is definitely one of those situations where you're going to want to get one of those mesh materials or the steel wool or something and put it in there as a rebar material to hold the concrete in place. That being said, they are determined, very determined animals. And when they want to get through something, especially that, they will. You have to jump on and you have to eliminate these animals before they get a chance to chew through your pest proofing. And let's watch me do speak under a house. Oh, why aren't you hearing me? There we go. We're going to start it over. And here we go. Oh, wait, we're not gonna listen to me twice. Okay, so we're back under our house. And what are we looking at? Remember, we're keen observers, we're detectives. These pipes here, think about the animals we're dealing with. So if we're dealing with rats in general, they're from forested areas, especially our roof rats are from jungles. So looking at this mash of wires and pipes, if you were an animal like that, what would you think? You would be seeing your home. You'd see a tree canopy, you'd see a jungle, you'd see vines instead of all this wire and pipe. Well, we're going to look even closer. Something should just be drawing a huge, just bullseye to everybody in here. I didn't put an arrow on this on purpose because to me, if you miss it, you're not paying attention. So this was the time where I'd wait for everyone to raise their hands and tell me something. So since that's not going to happen, I'll tell you, look at the pipe directly in front of us. It's filthy. It is covered in sebum and urine and droppings because that is a major pathway. When we look at the two pipes running behind it, they're spick and span clean. These are white PVC pipes. So that is how much more of an obvious sign do we need from these animals? But if we didn't go under this house, would we have ever seen it? And they're telling us where to pest proof. They're telling us which pipe penetrations are not secure. Obviously, these other pipes, wherever they're leading, they're not leading to a pathway where the rodents are utilizing that. They're showing us put a trap there, follow this back, seal it up. Maybe we need a scutcheon plate somewhere. Maybe you need a pipe collar somewhere. Maybe you need something different. But follow these clues are going to show us how to pest proof better by following them back. And it doesn't get much more obvious than that. So we mentioned on pipe penetrations too, using steel wool and using copper. This is something of note on this. If you're going to do that, be very careful and you're going to need to learn some because the wrong types of metal, you can cause a chemical reaction, especially using copper. If you put copper on galvanized, you're going to cause oxidation. It's going to cause the metal to corrode quicker. So certain times you have to match the metal to the metal. So it's good to have a little bit diversity inside of your pest proofing kit so you have the right type of patch for the right job. Also, if you need that knowledge, there are a lot of really good guides online to make it easy, which explain which type of metals will get reactions to each other, so you know what to use and what not to use. We like stainless the best because it has the least amount of reactability with the other metals. Also, copper, do not use copper to seal weep holes ever. Because weep holes control moisture in a house. When that copper gets wet over time and gets moisture on it, it's going to sweat and bleed blue down the side of the brick and stain it. And you're going to have some very angry homeowners. I might have done that back in the past once. Oops. Hey, we all have to admit that we make mistakes, right? That's how we learn. So pipe penetrations, the best way to go about it though, we put a little bit of steel wool or whatever type of material we need for backfill. And then we come with concrete and we seal it up like that. And it might not look pretty in the end, but let it dry, come back. You can paint over that and you can make it look nice. It's practice makes perfect. I'm definitely not a handyman, but I've learned how to get the job done doing this for so long. So what's another way that rodents enter our structures? Has anyone ever heard of rodents entering through toilets? Well, this is how one of the ways they do it. In some cities, they have combined sewer systems and drainage systems, and in those cities, this happens a lot more often than here. Here in New Orleans, we have separate sewer systems in our wastewater, so we don't have rodents accessing our buildings through toilets as often, but it does happen sometimes. And when it does, this is how we find it happening. We have an open sewer clean out. This is an easy fix. This is pest proofing 101. This is walking around and going, that pipe doesn't look right. It shouldn't be open to the world and to every rat that wants to use it. So how do we fix this? We go get a plug. That is the exact same drain from the video, and that $3.50 plug we bought from a hardware store stopped this rodent from accessing the structure permanently. They're amazing swimmers, but even they have their limit. Even they need to stop and do what this animal was doing, where it had to jump out of that clean out right there, catch its breath, and then it could jump back in to access the floor above it, where it was finally exiting and feeding on crackers on someone's desk. This is the quick and dirty. Get you a pipe collar, get some hardware cloth, and you can make a quick and dirty cap in the field. This is a Band-Aid on bullet wound method. This is not a permanent solution. This is what you do while you're waiting to get your permanent solution. This will work temporarily, but like I said, this is a temporary fix. But when we're out in the field, a lot of times we have to work with what we got. Maybe this is an emergency call and this is a Sunday and there's no hardware store available nearby open where you can get that. You never know. So it's good to have an alternative though for this. Sometimes you need to call a plumber. In a situation like this, we need to know when we're out of our field. I'm a rodentologist. I'm not a plumber. I couldn't fix this if I wanted to. The very few things I know about plumbing consist of don't bite your fingernails and paydays on Friday. So if you come across this, know your limits. When you see that, is there any way any of us could sit and fix a galvanized pipe with a hole like that? But we can tell instantly that that is how the rats are entering this toilet and how they're entering the structure. So sometimes know the scale of the job, know your limits, and don't be afraid to call in a contractor and get some help sometimes. Sealants versus caulk. This is extremely important. Why? Because sealants, they're more elastomeric. That means they're not going to dry up and get hard and crack when that rodent, he's not going to be able to get his teeth in it and pull it away. Instead, they're going to get stuck in it and he's not going to want to gnaw through that and get through that. It's going to be way more of a pain in the butt versus the caulk where it gets hard. And if anybody's seen a windowsill done with caulking, go look at it after 5 years and you'll see how that caulk is cracked all around it. And the animal has no problem ripping away at it and getting access. So it's sealant versus caulk is really a matter of it lasts longer. It discourages them from chewing more. Go with the quality product. Go with the thing you know is going to work. Sealing airflow, that's ideal for sealant. That's something we need to be concerned with too, because a lot of times that airflow is what's drawing the animals to our buildings to begin with. They smell those food scents on the air. They feel that warmth in winter. They feel that cool from our air conditions in summer, and they come running. They're very similar to us. They learn we mean opportunity and safety. And a lot of that information that tells them that is brought on the air to them. So seal the airflow. Seal your window screens, please. I know that rats and mice can chew through our screens, but any deterrent is a deterrent. Every little bit that can slow them down or stop them is worth it. Giving them easy opportunities like this is just inexcusable. So sealing windows, putting up screens like that, be sure to get 17 gauge half-inch galvanized mesh is what's recommended. 24 to 26 galvanized can also be used as far as sheet metal goes on them. Kick plates, we recommend 1/8 of an inch brass or aluminum. So I mentioned this earlier on the AC units and the hang units. And when you get to the older construction on a home, this is what you get. See the gap that the arrow is pointing to, and then you can see my hand going through. If my whole hand can fit through, there's nothing to stop a Norway or a roof rat or a house mouse. This is also going to allow insects in, mosquitoes, roaches, ants, all kinds of little critters can fit through here. Heck, snakes could come in to chase the rats and the mice with a hole this big. So they make excellent sealants and excellent deterrent pieces that you can buy from here. You can go online and look for companies that sell them. I'm not going to mention any, but there is a product specifically made to seal that gap to deter rodents from going through there for older houses. It's sort of like a retrofit piece. So missing siding, like this picture. Yes, I'm aware those aren't rats. Those are raccoons. But if you are allowing raccoons in your attic through the missing siding, I'm pretty sure the rats have found their way into by that point. And is this something that's on our scale? As I said earlier, maybe your company is scaled up for this. Maybe you do have someone on staff that knows how to do this task. But if not, you should hire somebody on staff. Make this part of your standard routine for doing a rodent job, where we're going to include pest proofing and we're going to include fixing outside things. So get a handyman on staff. Or have a local contractor that you keep on speed dial and you call up. Maybe he can send you rat jobs and you can send him exclusion jobs. Just thinking out the box here. But we can't ignore stuff like this. We can't go in here, take the job and tell them we're going to solve your problem and ignore the fact that they're missing siding inside the house. You'll never get the job done correctly. We looked at another shot of this earlier. Here's a close-up of it. That's the soffit under a house that's hanging, allowing access for rodents. We look here, we have a soffit spot hanging too, but we also have an AC line. Can't stress enough how much those AC lines give access points to rodents. and they'll chew them too a lot of times to get access to the water running through them. Always look closer. We had mentioned vents earlier on houses, so which they have for ventilation. When we look closer, that is just so pretty. We can even see where the rat or where the mouse was gnawing. I believe this was a rat actually had gnawed through. Another issue you're going to run into often and a lot, which we've discussed earlier, is overgrown vegetation on structures. These become rodent superhighways. They also degrade the structure itself by going into the concrete and weakening in it and causing gaps in it so that the rodents are able to get their teeth in and pull away. And on wooden structures, this also can cause serious damage. This also provides arbors for the animals. Look how thick the vegetation is along the fence here. So what was going on here was the Norway rats didn't have to burrow here. They were building above ground burrow systems or little nests inside those vines on that chain link fence. And those vines don't look it, but they were almost about 2.5 feet thick, the level of vines there. So you couldn't even see through to see what was occurring in there. And then we're going to look at the picture on the left and we see those vines lead straight up the interstate to that overpass. They go down on top of the building. And what do we have on top of the building? We have an AC unit, which means we have a arborage from those vines. And now we have a water source from the AC. So yeah, we have to look at the whole big picture when we're doing this. So with that, we're going to be ending our talk on rodent exclusion and rodent proofing. We're going to end with a really cool video. It is hard to tell exactly how high up we are in this video, but it appears to be, and we'll watch it one more time because it was just so much fun. Let's see, at least 3 floors up that house mouse is climbing. It doesn't care about the birds flying around on side of it. It has places to be. Like inside your house. Okay, so please save the date. Our Rodent Academy is coming up June 24th and 25th of this year. We're going to cover a range of topics from biology and control to parasites to a little bit of everything. It's fun. It's exciting. Come and learn in person from us. We do offer certifications for Louisiana, and CEUs for continuing education are available for multiple states. If you have a specific state, please email us at education@nola.gov or call us at 504-658-2400, and we will see about getting CEUs for your state as well.
Thanks, Timmy. We appreciate it. I wanted to remind everybody about the Gulf South Vector. It's the Vector Educational Centers for Training, Outreach, and Resources. So you can look up this project at vectoroutreach.org. And we have done, the City of New Orleans is doing this webinar in collaboration with Gulf South Vector. So we too have an email on there, or we too have a social media account. But if you want to stay on top of what educational training is coming out of this organization, we have trainings from Texas all the way to Florida. Please take a few minutes and sign up. You can go to the landing page. It's at the bottom of the landing page. Very simple to sign up, and you'll get an email every so often with information. So with that, if anybody has questions, Astacia, if you don't mind looking at the chat and letting us know if there's any questions that have come through.
We have a comment and some questions. The comment says that rodents will also access boxes and storage where jewelry is stored and eat pearls or seed pearls.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so we haven't necessarily have seen that one specifically, but yeah, absolutely, right? Boxes that hidden away locations, it'll eat the pearls. Yeah, we've not heard of that one. And I'm sorry about that happening.
I could easily see them eating the oyster.
Okay, how do you feel large cracks in foundations and brick walls?
That is a really good question. In those situations, I might call in a contractor actually, because when you say large cracks, the ability that we have as pest control professionals end somewhere, and the ability we have as contractors is going to have to start somewhere else. And I like to say Okay, if it's bigger than a half inch, I need to call in a contractor because I seal half inch or smaller gaps because I'm trying to keep rats out. And a half inch is sealable for the most part. Anything larger than that, you're gonna have to find somebody because it could be a structural crack. It
Yeah.
could cause things and issues we just aren't prepared with or certified to handle.
I think the big concern here in this region, there's a lot of soil settling. So we need to make sure that it's not a structural issue. So I agree with Timmy. I think you may be better off getting somebody to give you an opinion on the situation.
Okay. Early in the presentation, you mentioned plates or discs. What were those called that were used to seal pipe penetration?
Yeah, so that's one of our favorite ones, right? They're called discussion plates. And so it's like a clamshell almost that goes around a pipe. And then you adhere it usually through screws onto the back of the cabinet or whatever it may be. So they have them in all different sizes based on the pipes that are coming out. Very common at big box stores. DIY stores that are out there. There's lots of different
You
ones.
want a good example? Go in your bathroom and look where your toilet penetration comes, where the
Yeah,
water penetration
that's a
for your
good
toilet
one.
comes. You probably have an discussion plate around that. That is very common. If you're at work right now, go in the men's room or ladies' room if you're a lady and look under the sink where those water penetrations come through. There should be
It
ones
may
there
have
too.
that. And if it doesn't,
If it
then it
doesn't, it
needs
needs
one.
them.
So
Thank you. Are there any plants or trees that will either encourage or discourage rodents from coming into my yard?
Discourage rodents? Not really that we know of. There's nothing you can really plant that'll make them leave. On the other end, there's a lot that you can plant that'll make them come. Pretty much anything that grows fruits, veggies, nuts, even flowers, because rats love flowers in a lot of situations. Because I've seen, oh, plant this flower and it'll deter them. Well, there's no scientific evidence of that, so the jury's still out. But so far, yeah, nothing to repel, but so much to encourage. So be very careful what you're planting, even non-fruit bearing plants, cast iron plants. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, the root systems of them, they love to burrow under those plants. Yeah, ginger, because they can eat the flowers and they can eat the root system, and the root system provides a great burrowing situation for them. So it's like a triple threat. So yes, some plants can really work against you when you're dealing with rodents.
Do
Any
mint,
others?
do mint scented garbage bags repel rodents?
Uh,
well, I love that one. So I think many of us have heard about all these sort of natural repellents. Unfortunately, we're just not aware of any that truly works as repellency. So I know I've been at the store and they have lemon scented, and there's also mint scented garbage cans for repelling rodents, and actually raccoons are on there too. So unfortunately, I think all you're going to get out of that is really a nice smelling garbage can. So I would not expect any repellency. Now, what I would say is this. What you can do is you can take a squirt bottle with a diluted bleach solution, and you can spray inside your garbage bag, and then that trash goes there. It's not a permanent solution, not likely going to resolve your issues, but there may be a little bit of benefit for you.
yeah, no repellency for mint.
No.
So I think you just touched on this one, but you don't recommend any repellents for rodents. So there's no scent, no plants, anything like that
We
will.
do not.
No, at this point, there's no evidence that any of the repellents currently available function at all the way they're advertised.
It's very important to look at the scientific primary peer-reviewed literature. If you have any questions about what a product does or does not do, I would definitely go and double check and see if there's anything in the primary literature. If you're part of a university or are a student, you'll have access to their library. And so their library will have those journals, mostly electronic. If you do not have that option, a great option for you to look at is Google Scholar.
Yeah.
And you can go in and do some keyword searches and see if any of those topics come up.
Okay. Thank you. That's all of the questions that I see in the chat. Once again, I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Please follow us at either NOLA Mosquito and at Vector Education. If you live in Orleans Parish, you can call 311 to report rodent issues. If you have any comments or suggestions, please email them to us at education@nola.gov. Just a reminder that pictures of traps, stations, and rodenticides are for educational purposes and only, and does not represent an endorsement by New Orleans Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board. This presentation is to be used for educational purposes only. Once again, thank you guys for attending today. Part 4 will take place next Tuesday, the 20th. And also we have the additional part 5 that will take place on Tuesday, May 27th. Have a great day.